Hey guys, what's up? It's Rescue Rabbit 101 here. First of all, I want to apologize about my voice. I'm not feeling that well. Second, I want to apologize about not putting up any videos last week or getting this up sooner. I was actually traveling and I couldn't record or upload because of time and noise and a whole bunch of other factors. But I'm back home and we're going to do a ban list predictions video. So, let's begin. So first of all, cards that I think should be banned, there's only really one, and that is, as you probably guessed, Djinn Release Earth Rituals. Because it's really the only ban-worthy card this format. Like, Snatch Steal is actually kind of a fair card, because it can punish for putting all of your resources into one monster and not having backup plays. So, with Djinn, though, it's just a degenerate lock where you put it out there, and if your opponent has an out or they don't, and it's basically a floodgate, but it's one of the best floodgates because it doesn't affect you. And while, yeah, I know I shouldn't be hitting generic ritual support, the card is kind of stupid, and I do hit Necroz later. You'll see later. So now onto the limited list. First of all, we have the Crush card Virus and all of the other cards that got limited, that are gotten their erratas and are being reprinted, which is something like, as you can see the list in the background, it's not DMOC, because that's not allowed yet. It's, other cards, think Sinister Serpent was in there, Crush cards in there. Basically, any of the ban cards that have received an errata, I think, are going to be coming back off of the list, simply because this is when they're getting reprinted. They're getting reprinted with an errata, and that just makes a whole lot of sense. Like, the OCG got it, and we're probably going to right now. Next on the limited list, as you can probably see from the blue, is kind of the dual feature. I think it's either or going to be Necroz of the Unicorn or Necroz of the Valkyros. Now, I have chosen these over Brio. First of all, these cards are not as essential to the deck as Brio is, meaning that if you take away Brio, the deck kind of can't really function that well. Sorry. But the thing about Valkyros is, if you're put in a bad spot, Necroz, you just search Valkyros and then recycle Valkyros, and most decks only play about 2 Valks. So putting the Valk at 1 makes it much harder to, keep getting the Valk plays, but putting the Unicorn at 1 is especially powerful because it could even force the decks to play 3 Valks, which can add clogginess, and Unicorn means you don't have to play as many of the ritual monsters you want, and you can just recycle your Valk and stall out of boards you shouldn't be able to beat until you get an answer. So I feel that they're not the key cards for the deck, which is why I hit them, but they do help a lot. So the next card is Preparation of Rites, and a lot of people have said this one, and I really don't like hitting it just because it's generic ritual support, but it is the best searching card in Necroz because you add Brio and it gets everything else. Like, Manju and Senju are great cards, but this gets you both. And as has been demonstrated with Senju, even if you're just getting Colossus to get a spell, it still gives you full access to everything. Now, the deck doesn't need to get banned because it's a good card for other ritual decks, and that'd be kind of unfair to them. But I think Konami really won't hit Necroz that hard. The Valk and the Unicorn is kind of even over the top for them, but if they do hit those cards, and then later down the line they hit the Necroz more so you can't play them anymore, then they can bring Prep back because the deck will be dead. And last on the limited list is these 2 Floodgate cards everybody knows, Skill Drain and Vanity's Emptiness. Now, Skill Drain has basically been a problem since it came out. It was hard to find a deck that could abuse Skill Drain because all the your effects are negated too, and there were decks like that, but if, your Skill Drain doesn't go off, you kind of lost. Cleese don't need their Skill Drain to go off to win. It just helps a lot. And since the deck has such search power, they basically get to their skill drains really easy. Emptiness is played in literally everything. It just got a massive reprint. It's probably going to get hit, and in the OCG, it was put to 1. And in case you guys hadn't noticed, I think what happens in the OCG has a huge impact on what happens here, excuse me. So, that's why I say these 2 cards are going to 1, because just like Djinn, they're floodgates, but they're not as broken as Djinn. Next, 2-2, starting off with Cleethorn Scout. I feel The deck is probably going to get harder than I'm saying it is. I just couldn't come up with a good card to hit in Cleathorns. Like, you put Scout to 1 and the deck is basically dead because they lose one Scout and they have to draw into their Climate Change. Then they start playing 3 Climate Change. Skill Drain to 1 and Scout to 2 is decent, I think. I think what Scout to 2 does to the deck is it basically says, look, I'm going to pop your first Scout, and you can grab that second Scout with your Sacrifice, right? But you can either waste your first search on a Sacrifice and risk me destroying you, or you don't and risk losing your Scout. With 3 Scouts, you would just search, and then, maybe I should grab the Climate Change, or by that point they probably don't have outs given the Skill Drain and Vanities. But with Skill Drain to 1, Vanities to 1, and Cleathorn Scout to 2, you should have MSTs for at least some of the cards, and it doesn't cripple the deck as a whole. So that was my thought process on that. Next is another kind of the dual feature. It's Altair and Nova. And they might hit one, they might hit the other, or they might hit both. Personally, I think both need to get hit. What I feel Altair does to the deck is Altair extends the combos. Now, putting the card at 1 would be unfair because that means, sorry, without drawing Vega and the second Satellar, they really only get 1 Xyz. Altair is their 1 card Xyz. At 3, it's stupid, though, because Deneb gives you more, and you always have 1 card Xyz, so in the end it comes out to a 0 card Xyz. Or a 1 card for 3 Xyz, and that is just not fair. Nova basically says, well, you're trying to negate anything, trying to stop me in any way, shape, or form, or just do anything, and I'm just going to say no, because my Deneb was going to die anyways. So Nova is kind of, their negate all, but putting it at 1 would be cruel, because they do kind of need it to go off, and it does give them the deck thinning capability. If you put Vega at 1, it doesn't stop the deck, it just means they can't make their 3s as easily, and they still have Call of the Haunted. That's why I said Altair to 2. Now, you might say, well, they still have the Call of the Haunted. Yes, they do. But they'd still have the Call of the Haunted anyways, even if you put Altair at 1. It just means the deck isn't totally susceptible to DD Crow, which it basically already is, because you need that 1 to Deneb in the graveyard. Now, some Satellar Knight players are going to correct me. No, you can get the second to Deneb, that's why we play Una. Yeah, I know, but it's still, going out of your way, and you can lose a decent amount of advantage like that. So, that's why I say Altair to 2. That's just my thoughts on it. Now, the only hit to Burning Abyss... Right, this was actually... Sorry, this is out of order. This fell out of order, sorry. This was a limited. Because the Burning Abyss deck is great, but if you put out something bigger than the Dante... A lot of them aren't playing Phoenix Wing and Blessing Karma Cuts anymore, just because Denko Sekka. And they're not playing as much back row, so if you put out something bigger than Dante, it can be a real pain to get over for them. And if they have to devote to an Acid Golem, that can be bad. So, Firelight kind of gives them the universal outs, and as some people stated, it is a +2 that's recurable and usable at basically any point. So, the card just is not a fair card, so it should go to 1. Sorry, that was out of the order. Next is coming to 2, and these are coming from 1, are these 2 cards. No, that doesn't go with it. Sorry. Wrong card. Deep Sea Diva and this card. Sorry. Atlantean Dragoons. So, Mermails are getting their new card. Drawing the 1 Dragoons can mess up their combos. Just from what I've seen, I know you can put it back and still make plays with the 1 Dragoons in hand, but 2 Dragoons means if you draw 1, you still have other plays, and if you draw both, well, you have 2 Dragoons, and you can make really big plays. So, I think the card will come back to 2. I think 3 is excessive because the card is really good, but 2 is fine. Diva, as well, same reasoning, kind of this Dragoons. It helps support the deck, but putting it at 3, you've seen videos where Diva's a 1 card OTK now, so they're trying to bump Mermails, so, Going down to 2, this is the other Burning Abyss hit. Tour Guide, I don't like this. I don't think Tour Guide actually should get hit, but I think Konami's going to do it anyways because they're like, well, that's it. But the deck only needs to open Tour Guide, really. I mean, it's great to have it, turn after turn after turn, but if you resolve 1 Tour Guide and then drop the second Dante, you're in a good position, and the second Dante is not made out of Tour Guide anyways, so it's a great card for the deck, but from what I've seen of Burning Abyss, they don't actually, need it. So I think Konami's going to hit it. They might even put it at 1, but I don't agree with it. Rescue Rabbit. Yeah, me. So I can't not have him back at 2. He doesn't do anything in the metagame. I mean, I play Evil Swarm, but and that is kind of a little bit biased, but the fact is he's not doing anything in the metagame. Dino Rabbit is long since dead, and putting out a 1 Logia is just gonna get, killed as soon as they play their first ritual spell, and you're forced to go negate because you don't know what they're summoning, and then they play the Kaleidoscope, and you kind of lose. And if you go Dolka, they just drop Unicorn. So, I don't think Dino Rabbit's going to do anything. Konami probably won't even put this card back at 1, but I have to hope. And I want Rabbit back at 2. And they might do it. It wouldn't do anything. Bestiary back at 2. Now, everyone's going to say, well, why not at 3? Because this is Konami we're talking about. They don't tend to put cards from 1 to 3. They take it slow and put it at 2 and then at 3, kind of like with Goyo and Strike Fighter and Magician of Faith. Those cards came off the ban list at absolutely nothing and are now, increasing in limits, but they're not going to jump it. That's not Konami's style. The card will give Glads a boost that means they're playable, and it really won't do too much in the metagame. I mean, it'll give Glads a pretty good matchup against Klees, probably, because Bestiary pop everything you do. Pop all of your pendulums. It seems decent, at least. So, it'd put Glads back in the fighting game, but, Bestiary doesn't do anything to Necroz. If they have Unicorn, you can't even resolve Geyseris, so just saying. Next, coming back to 2, Thunder King Ryo. He's been at 1 way too long, and he doesn't need to be, and we have Mistake at 3, and it's really good, and it'll just give a boost to the anti-meta, which Konami probably won't do because they don't care about the anti-meta, but I want Ryo back at 2, because at 1 he's a good card at 1, but a lot of decks won't play him, but at 2 he's so much better than he is at 1. It's a weird thing that some cards are so much better at 2 than they are at 1 because your chances of drawing it, kind of like another card you'll see in a second. Sorry. Next, Dark Strike Fighter coming to 2, it 0 to 1, and now it's 1 to 2 because it did nothing and no one's going to play it. It's effect once per turn. You could probably stick Global. There's a ton of cards that can come back to 2. I just picked some of them, like probably a large portion of the limited list could come back to 2 with probably no problem, like Dark Armed. Oops. Well, where'd that go? Ah, there it is. Okay. Yeah, Strike Fighter, that's self-explanatory. But probably most of the list could, like, Dark Arm could come back, Debris Dragon could probably come back, Dandy could come back, Spirit could go back to 2, Moraltech could come back to 2, Birdman, Glow Up Bulb, the Insector cards, like, most of this limited list is really outdated. Night Assailant, who needs discard loops? It's called Burning Abyss. Neospatian Grand Mole, Red MD cannot come back another mind. We already covered Rabbit. Wind-Up Magician probably could, but loops are loops. Loops aren't fun. This card can't come back because this card opens up abusive loops. But a lot of these cards actually, wouldn't really do anything if they came back to 2. Now, some of them don't come back to 2, like, that card would be hectic at 2. But, a fair number of them. I just talked about a couple. And then the last card, and this kind of ties into the Ryo, what I was talking about, how some cards are so much better, because at 1, you don't want to play the Torrential because you're not likely to draw it in a good situation. Like, you draw it maybe once every 3 games, and if it's dead, it's just a bad card. It might not do anything for you. But at 2, you're going to draw it, maybe 1 a game, maybe 1 every 2 games, and sorry. And that gives you much better chances of being able to appropriately apply the effect. Same idea with Ryo. So that's why the cards get better as they go up, and sometimes not in, equal increments. Coming to 3, we have Gores, and these are basically all cards coming off the semi-limited list, so I'm just going to yank them all up at once. And kind of spread them out so you can see them all. So, we have Honest, Goyo, Gores, Trag, and Advanced Ritual Art. So, Honest, they brought it back to 2. It might come back to 3. They might decide that it does enough at 2 and that it's too good, because, some decks can play it. If it comes to 3, that might be kind of a hectic format, but It'll be fun. So, Honest can come back to 3. They might not. Go ahead and come back to 3. The card was at 1. It did nothing. The card was at 2. It did nothing. The card's going to go to 3, and it's going to do nothing. People might play it. I'm not saying people don't play it, but you don't play 3 copies of it. You don't abuse it. The card can go to, at 1 and 3, people are going to play 1 no matter what. So, that's just my thoughts. Dragon Gores. Gores came back to 2 last list, if I'm not mistaken. Let me move this. Let me move this and this. Sorry. Yeah, Gores came back to 2. I think. No, not this list, but a while ago Gores did come back to 2, and, he's seeing play, but he's not meta-defining. Same with Trag. Trag's at 2. Neither of them is really meta-defining cards, and, if they come back, they're still not going to be meta-defining cards. And the last one, Advanced Ritual Art. Necroz, don't play it. And we've hit so much other generic ritual stuff to mess with the Necroz deck. The card deserves to come back to 3 to give it a boost. I don't think Necroz will ever play it because they don't want inconsistencies. So, that was my thoughts on what the ban list will look like. Some of those were more wishes than... Sorry. Some of those were more wishes than what I actually think Konami will do. But remember to leave any thoughts you think, anything you think I messed up on, anything you think I didn't cover, what you want to see on the ban list. Remember to leave it all in the comment section below. Remember to subscribe for more content, and like the video. Rescue Rabbit 101, signing out.